Hello, everybody. This is a very special episode of Here Comes the Spider-Cast. Today we are talking about two cartoons, Spider-Man and Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. And this is your co-host, Mike L. And as always, I'm joined by...
Joshua Mervell. Yeah, I'm pretty excited to talk about these today.
That's right. And there's a big difference between the two of us. One of them, well, there's many differences, but one of them is that I grew up with these two cartoons and you did not, right?
No, I didn't. I did. I grew up watching the 90s Spider-Man TV show and really liked that one.
Okay, so we're not going to get into the history of the show. I'll just briefly say that both of these shows were produced at the same time, but for some reason, the solo Spider-Man cartoon was almost lost to history. No one ever talks about it. They always talk about Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends.
Right.
So I have Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. I had a VHS copy with a few episodes on it. So I've kind of kept up with that over the years, just rewatching that one tape.
Okay.
But this solo Spider-Man cartoon, which by the way has different voices, I don't know why they did it that way. But
yeah.
I have not seen this in almost 40 years.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen the Spider-Man one. I have seen some episodes of Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. But I don't think I've seen any episodes of this other Spider-Man series until now.
Well, without getting into too much detail yet, I'll say that I watched the Amazing Friends episode first, then I watched this, and I was shocked to learn that I actually enjoyed the solo Spider-Man one more.
Yeah, that one felt a little bit more like Golden Age comic. It was still very goofy, but it felt like old fashioned. I guess.
Which one did the
Spider-Man
Amazing Friends? Oh, the solo.
Yeah.
Well, to me, I think the reason I liked it is because first of all, it had Spider-Man's classic status quo with like Aunt May.
Right. He has like normal everyday problems.
Right.
Yeah, I think those were my favorite parts too, where he's got to like rush home to finish the paper, and as he's writing this paper, he falls asleep, and Aunt May walks in the morning, and he's still dressed up as Spider-Man, so he's got to throw on a house coat.
Right,
and,
exactly.
You know, she notices the red parts of his costume, but then just kind of brushes it off as fancy looking socks.
Right.
So he's always kind of got these like personal problems, and I love it. Yeah, that was really fun in that episode.
It's also great that right away in this first episode, we're introduced to Dr. Octopus, which is one of Spider-Man's oldest villains, right? So they do it right instead of bringing in all these other characters, which they tended to do because I think in the old cartoon, I think they avoided his villains for the most part. I could be wrong about that. With the 60s one, I'm not positive.
Okay.
But with this one, I like how they just dive right in with Dr. Octopus.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, this is a lot of fun.
He's also at Empire State University, just like in the comics, right? So that's great. Okay, so you know what? Here's the thing. In the end, the plot in this is good, but I want to talk more about the style of the cartoon.
Okay.
Now, because for me, this is Spider-Man. Like, I was starting to think that I saw this before I bought the comic, but I think the comic that I bought, Spectacular 58, that was out before this, so I must have already known about Spider-Man from the live action TV show.
Right.
But this still was early on, and so in my brain, this is Spider-Man. Now, what did you think of, for example, the animation?
The animation was, I think, a little bit better than I thought it was going to be.
Okay.
But for the time, it's a little stiff. But that's just kind of how animation was in the 80s. It was, they didn't go too in depth, and because it was all hand done at the time too.
Right.
It's definitely more difficult and time consuming, and on the schedule, I'm sure that they had being having to make, dozens of episodes for TV so they can quickly go out and air. They definitely don't have as much time as like an animated movie at the time would have.
Sure.
Right. So I think that definitely for the time, the animation is pretty good.
The thing is, yeah.
And I also like that the models, they stay on model a lot too, which is good.
And I want to say that in regards, we're not going to talk about the history of animation, but one thing I do know is that G.I. Joe was actually very innovative for the time, and it was a step up from the average animation. And so this is a year before the G.I. Joe cartoon started, and so it was still in that, like you said, it's kind of stiff, it's a little bit primitive.
Right.
But I still do like it. And the other thing is a lot of the sound effects and the voice actors are the same as the ones used in G.I. Joe and Transformers.
Okay.
So for that reason alone, it just brings back all the nostalgia. Like when I hear a sound effect from something that I saw in G.I. Joe or Transformers, right away I'm transported back to age 7 and 8 and 9, right? So there's a lot of that in this
I will say,
episode.
I think that I liked Spider-Man's voice in the other one better.
Oh, yes. We're going to talk about that, yes.
Yeah, he felt very Casey Kasem in this one. I don't know if that actually was him.
No, it wasn't. But Casey Kasem was around this time doing Robin.
Right.
Did you know that?
Yeah,
he did
and
Robin.
I think that's
he did
why
Blue Streak
it reminded me of that so much. Like maybe they were trying to emulate that.
Could be, yeah.
They're both like teenage heroes at the time, so maybe they were trying to kind of ride on that like gimmick and idea.
Sure.
But his voice really felt like Casey Kasem at times. Like that kind of announcer feel to it.
Sure.
Like even Robin has that feel. Like, holy smokes, Batman!
Yeah.
Like he
that's a good
really
point.
enunciates it.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it was. I gotta say, I do love in this issue how Dr. Octopus's headquarters is in a sewer under New York City. And it's almost like Lex Luthor and Superman, where Spider-Man has to crawl through and like open up this weird door, and like he's got his whole lab down there. I love that.
Yeah,
as a
this
kid,
was pretty
I thought
fun.
it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they incorporate J. Jonah Jameson with the photos and everything, right? Like, is J. Jonah in this, or no? He's not. It's just that he's taking the photos, but he's not in this one, is he? I don't think.
I'm trying to remember. I don't think that he is in this one, but he is taking pictures throughout this one.
Okay, but yeah, I mean, again, as a kid, I loved it.
Oh wait, no, J. Jonah Jameson is in this.
Yeah, I thought so because he was taking photos. So yeah, I knew he got it from. Yeah, he is in it. So yeah, again, this is classic Spider-Man status quo. And the live-action Spider-Man show, they did not. They had, I think they had J. Jonah, but he wasn't quite the same character as he is here. Like this is straight out of the comics. So I really like this. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say I do also really like Doc Ock's like evil plan too. It's very comic booky. It's like a classic story. He's stealing these crystals to power up his octopus arm weapons to make him more powerful to kill Spider-Man and do crime. I thought that was a lot of fun. Yeah. And
exactly,
then at the end, him getting away on this this octopus like scuba jet ski thing, and his arms stick out of the vehicle and they like whip around and fight. Yeah, it's goofy but fun. Like I really, really like it.
Me too. And there's probably a toy of that somewhere, and that's probably why they stuck it in there.
But
it's still great, right? Like it's so good. So here's the thing: is that I have been waiting to see this show for almost 40 years.
Okay.
And it's funny because I am in the middle of rewatching Batman the Animated Series from the 90s on Blu-ray.
So good.
Oh, it's so good. And like I can watch that like anything. Like I can watch 1 or 2 a day. When I watched these episodes of Spider-Man, I was not as enthusiastic to watch more, okay? I was like I can appreciate it for what it is.
Yeah.
But to actually I could never sit down and marathon like a bunch of episodes. It is very dated, and it's obviously made for younger kids. There's no doubt about that, right?
This could be fun with like a group of people,
right?
Having some snacks and kind of like talking about it, or like maybe goofing on it and kind of, enjoying it for what it is. But I don't think I would recommend this to be like
that hurts.
To be like, oh, you gotta watch this. This is a great Spider-Man TV show. I think that it's fine, and if somebody were to watch it, I wouldn't tell them to turn it off or not watch it. But I don't think it would be my go-to to show somebody who, what Spider-Man is and what he could be.
I could concur with that.
Yeah.
It's hard to objectively, like if I were to sit down and compare the 60s one to the 80s one to the 90s one, the 90s one is probably objectively the best, but I love the 80s one. And I also know that the 60s one, it's got the best theme song.
Right.
It's got some cool animation in there. So it's kind of hard to objectively compare them because they're so tied to the time period that they were created, right?
Right. See, I think I would even recommend the 60s one more.
Okay.
Because it has more of that classic feel. Like it feels like this, but amplified.
Sure.
In its simplicity, the corniness and goofy, simple stories.
Sure.
So I think that this is really fun and definitely perfect for its time. But I think now it's not as interesting.
Sure.
But again, that could also just be me, as an outsider, not having watched it when I was little.
Yeah.
But
well, for me, the way I see it is, hey, there's only 26 episodes of each, so guess what? I'm going to watch them all.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I've got nothing but time to kill. Okay, so that brings us to the other cartoon that was launched the same day. So this is the first episode of Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, which again, this was Spider-Man for me when I was growing up. For starters, this is one of the best theme songs of any show in my opinion.
Yeah, this is fun.
I frickin' love this theme song. In fact, here's a little tidbit for you listeners out there. The Spider-Man, or the theme song for Comic Book Syndicate, the one that we've been using for 12 years, I actually gave my friend Phil Premerl a YouTube link to this theme song, and I said, make it sound
that's
like
really
this.
awesome.
Yes, because I don't care what anyone says. This theme song, the music is good. It's got cool little changes. It's got little, it's great. I love it. So anyway,
yeah, we're
gonna talk about
the action is really fun too in it, and what's going on. The animation is also really good. The animation is always very well done in the openers because they have it's 10-20 seconds of animation, but they probably spend the same amount of time animating that as they do an episode because it's going to be in every single one and it's there to grab you. So the animation is always fantastic in the openers. That's why even in X-Men, the opener for the 90s X-Men is so good and so well animated. Or even Transformers. If you look at that, the opening for Transformers is so good. The animation is great. They're spinning around the robots. They're fighting and jumping at each other. But then when you watch an episode, they're like statues. They don't move. It's a still image. It's still image. And then Optimus Prime's triangle mouth just moves up and down as he's talking.
Okay, you know what? What's funny is this is a side note. The absolute best opening of any cartoon in the 90s, especially compared to the rest of the show, you know what it was?
What?
It was Cops. Do you remember the show Cops?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. If I ever had the opportunity to direct a $100 million blockbuster, I would just direct all of my action scenes to be like the opening of Cops, okay? That thing is so dynamic. It's like the camera's flying around and every scene, links to the next one. And, it's beautiful. Yeah, you're right about that. Now, this is not as dynamic as that, as Cops or Transformers, but it is fun.
Yeah.
And the other thing I love about this intro is that they introduce, first of all, for those that don't know, Firestar was created for this cartoon. Did you know that?
Oh, I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah, apparently
cool.
It was originally, it was supposed to be Iceman and the Human Torch as his pals. But instead, I think the Human Torch, the rights were tied up with either another cartoon or something else. I don't know.
Right.
So they
maybe it was also there were two Human Torches, right? Because there's the original Human Torch, way back when. I don't know if that maybe was tied up in rights back then, but
no, it wouldn't have been. No, because they'd already used the Human Torch in one or two Fantastic Four cartoons.
Okay,
so it wouldn't have been that. I don't think. No. So, but anyway, it's cool because now we get a girl, right? We get a female character, and also I love her. She has a great costume design, in my opinion. As a kid, I had a crush on her. Because they got a cool voice for her, right? I'm not sure who the actress was, but she's great. And then you got Iceman, again, really good voice on him. And this opening intro here introduces them both, and I love the way they do their powers, right?
Yeah.
Iceman shoots the ice at his feet and covers himself in the ice, and Firestar shoots her arms out and creates this little circle or whatever. Again, with the Firestar is new, but with Iceman, that was not how he did it in the comics. So again, we got to credit the show for doing this, because they always think of a cool visual way to introduce their powers, right? So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. And speaking of voice acting too for Iceman, I'm almost positive this is Fred from Scooby-Doo.
Oh, I think you're right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
like he really sounds like Fred. I mean, he even looks like him.
Yeah,
in a lot of the shots too.
I mean, we could Google it, but I mean, it's probably right.
Yeah.
But anyway, so anyway, here's the thing: is that I was really excited again to see this episode, but once I got past the nostalgia of seeing the voices or seeing the characters, listening to the voices, listening to the music, I must admit that I was disappointed by the actual writing of this episode.
Yeah.
And it was a struggle to even get through one episode, let alone continue past that. What did you think?
Yeah, this was a harder one to watch for sure. I think the beginning was really fun though. Before they go into like the costume party stuff.
Sure.
You just see Iceman and Spider-Man kind of working together to stop this burglary, I believe.
Right.
Somebody stole something from a gem shop or something like that. So the two of them are working together to stop these guys, and Iceman is making this ramp that he's swinging across, and Spider-Man's running along with him, and there's some like fun stuff there at the beginning. I thought, this could be really fun.
Yeah.
And then they kind of get into the like high school drama aspect of it, and it kind of just falls apart for me.
Well, okay. First, they don't forget they introduce Norman Osborn.
Right.
And his origin is slightly different from the comics. In this, he actually turns into a goblin, which is, to be honest, cooler.
Yeah.
I think it's much cooler. But whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of cool how the status quo in the show is obviously different than the other show. Here, Peter Parker is roommates with Angelica and Bobby, and they all live together with Aunt May. And again, I think that's cool. I don't mind. It didn't bother me, when I was a kid. They've also got a dog named Ms. Lion, which I found out I think it might have been Midnight's Edge, that basically said that the reason Ms. Lion is in the show is because one of the execs thought that was what kids wanted to see.
They
and
need
that's
like
what
an
sold
animal
cartoons.
sidekick.
Yeah, they got to have
it.
it. Exactly.
Yeah.
And hey, I never had a problem with Ms. Lion when I was a kid. So I was like, oh, whatever. That's Spider-Man's got a dog. I don't care. Right?
Yeah, I think that's what it feels like watching it. Like it feels like a forced animal sidekick.
Okay.
But also, I don't think it necessarily took anything away either.
Sure.
Because it wasn't the dog wasn't a big part of the story. I'm sure you might feel it later on, because I'm sure that there's going to be episodes where the dog is a main part of the story, and it'll maybe overstay its welcome then, but it didn't bother me much here.
Sure. Now, I got to say, I always really liked this whole costume party thing because, first of all, Angelica goes as Spider-Woman, who also had her own cartoon somehow around this time. In fact, she had it before Spider-Man, which is bizarre.
Oh,
but anyway,
really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it came up before Spider-Man. But
interesting.
We'll look into that later. And then Bobby's dressed up as Captain America, which is funny. And then Peter goes as Spider-Man. And it's funny because instead of having a regular Spider-Man mask, he has one of those old plastic ones that just fits on with an elastic.
Right.
I love that. And then Bobby's date is dressed up as Medusa from, Fantastic Four.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go to this party, and it's cool because everyone else is also dressed up as other Marvel superheroes. So we get cameos of people dressed up as Storm, Submariner, Black Widow, the Hulk,
Vision.
Where's the Vision?
It's when they're all dancing, like one of the
first
shots. When they're
and
all
Scarlet
dancing.
Witch,
yeah.
right. And then there's the Wasp. Oh, that's
Thor.
Look at that Power Man with a different colored costume. Wow, interesting.
Doctor Strange is there.
Oh, Phoenix is there. You're right.
Oh yeah, we get some really like cool cameos here.
Right,
little, like hints at other characters.
So Yeah, I guess the thing is right off the bat, the writing probably is so far better in the other show, at least for these 2 episodes. But the premise, I don't know, it just seems like a lot more fun because he's got the roommates. It just seems like there's more possibilities for stories. You know what I mean? Like I don't know until I watch the whole series, but it just seems like this is more fun. And it's also a funny little gag where when Spider-Man goes to this Halloween party, there's all these other people dressed up as Spider-Man too, so it's kind of funny.
I think that one gag that doesn't work for me though is that weird part where the Green Goblin started swooping at Peter Parker, but it turns out to be somebody in a costume.
I know,
but like, how are they roped up and rigged to fly around in this gym at a high school?
No. It makes no sense at all.
It's so wild to think about that. Like, and then they show a shot of him swinging around, and then there's another person dressed up as Green Goblin, swinging around. Like it's
kind of weird.
Yeah, a little weird, but
I mean, I guess it's kind of like another. It's an extension of the joke of him dressing up as Spider-Man.
Yeah.
At this thing, but it just doesn't quite work as well.
Yeah.
So then we get then Spider-Man ends up facing off, against the Green Goblin, which is always cool because I love the Green Goblin. I should also point out that at this point in the comics, the original Green Goblin had been dead for like 9 years.
Right.
Yeah, because he was dead from I think 72 all the way to like 95.
Oh, right.
Did you know that? Yeah, because like Norman Osborn was dead, but Harry took over a couple times, and then Professor Bart Hamilton was Green Goblin for a couple issues. So it's kind of cool that in this they just go right back and just get the original back and just do it right. I thought that was cool. Again, not much of a story in this one.
Yeah.
But it still was cool. It's funny because I just watched it and you just watched it, and neither one of us can really remember what the actual plot was with the Green Goblin.
I think Green Goblin is breaking into the high school to steal a formula to turn everybody into Green Goblins.
Into goblins, which, by the way,
but
this, I don't know if this is the first time, but that has got to be the stupidest supervillain motivation.
Awful.
And by the way, I can also point out this was used in
The Amazing Spider-Man.
Well, no, I was going to say, was it used? Yeah, with the lizard?
Yeah, the lizard wanted to turn everybody else into lizards.
That is so freaking stupid. But you know what else what else did it? X-Men, the first movie, Magneto wanted to turn everyone into mutants.
Oh, right.
Do you know how idiotic that is? I'm sorry. It's just such a stupid...
Yeah.
Like I can forgive a lot because these are superhero cartoons, but that is just a stupid motivation, So I can only hope that the writing gets better in future episodes because I'm looking forward to... Like episode 3 has Sunfire, and then coming up, there's X-Men. The whole team appears in a couple episodes. So I'm really looking forward to those, but... I gotta say, this first one, the writing is not great.
Yeah.
So, it's still a lot of fun, but...
Yeah, I'm hoping that they get better, because I think that this could be something that I go back and revisit.
Sure.
This definitely isn't going to be something that, like, I'm going and watching every night, but if I'm doing something else, I'll put it on in the background and kind of watch while I'm, drawing or doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will concur. It's again, I waited 4 decades, and it's not as good as I remember it to be when I was a kid.
Right.
Nothing ever is, but it still is fun. I still love, like I said, I love the sound effects. I love the voices. Like the guy who's doing Peter Parker is the same actor that played Bumblebee on Transformers.
Okay, yeah. I thought he sounded a little familiar too.
Yeah, like great voices on the show, great premise. It's fun, but again, it was meant for kids, and obviously kids loved it because. My whole generation, we love this cartoon. We still talk about it, so obviously it did its job.
Right.
So, I guess that's it. I mean, this was a shorter than average episode, but it was our special. I guess this is the week of Christmas, so it's sort of our Christmas special episode.
Yeah.
So this actually came out September 1981. So around the first time that I got my first Spider-Man comic, this cartoon was on the air. I had probably already seen the live-action TV show that was a piece of crap, and so all of it solidified my love for Spider-Man. And
That's awesome.
Yeah, it all makes sense. I mean, none of it's again, none of it's gourmet food, but it was definitely, like you said, it was like this is like another home cooked meal.
Yeah.
Although not quite as good as the
Right.
the issue of Spectacular that came out in
Right.
September '81.
Yeah, this maybe is like mac and cheese with hot dogs cut up into it.
There you go. There you go. I'll concur on that.
All right.
So definitely looking forward to more. Like we both said, we can't really recommend it, but maybe we can recommend it to kids. And
Yeah.
we can recommend if you've got nothing to do. If it's at like the end of a party and everyone's kind of half drunk and you want to like throw something on in the background, this is what you throw.
Yeah,
on,
that could
right?
be really fun. Yeah, for
There
sure.
you go. So there you go, folks. Spider-Man and his amazing friends, pilot episodes of each show, moderately recommended by both of us. Not great writing, but they were still fun. So next week, we will be returning to our regularly scheduled episode of Here Comes the Spider-Cast, following the monthly adventures of our favorite hero, Spider-Man. See you then.
See you then. Merry Christmas.